We are so cooked, dude. When is Tokyo Fanfest? When is it? Hold on, let me see if I got that correct. Does that say October 31st and November 1st? Oh, we're not seeing 8.0 till like May 2027. You're telling me we have Dawntrail for another year and a half-ish? Well, we have a lot to talk about. Hello, everybody. I am Jmulls. Let's get into it. So, let's talk about that May timeframe. Final Fantasy XIV, as we all know at this point, is a game of habit. They have their routines, they have their schedules, and they largely like to stick with them. And if we want to go back in time to yesteryear of 2024, the Tokyo Fan Fest was January 6th and January 7th. And Dawntrail didn't properly come out until July 2nd with early access on June 28th. That's like half a year later. And if we apply this logic, the reason we care so much about this, by the way, if you maybe just aren't familiar with how Final Fantasy XIV operates, you're new around the block, in the build-up to a new expansion for Final Fantasy XIV, they do 3 live presentations, essentially Fanfests. One in North America, one in Europe, and then one in Japan, where at each Fanfest, they reveal more information about the expansion. Think of it like Blizzard announcing a new World of Warcraft expansion at like a BlizzCon. But instead of one show, it's like spread across 3 over the course of like a year or so. Or at least many months. So the reason we care about this is because it gives us a rough estimate as to when 8.0, the next expansion, is actually coming out. And the Tokyo Fanfest, being the last one, is consistent. The problem is when it's actually happening. October 31st, 2026 and November 1st, 2026. Yeah, you heard me right. 2026. We had the Tokyo Fanfest for Dawntrail January 6th and 7th. And the thing didn't come out until late June for early access and early July for the proper release. That's almost like a 6 to 7 month window. And if we apply that here, that takes us well into like spring of 2027. That is a long wait. Especially when we're waiting in an expansion that, let's face it, is only getting more negative press about it. It's like, dude, I loved the 7.3 story. We are essentially just taking a knee and running out the clock until we get to the deep dungeon, though. And let's not be stupid here. We all know what a lot of the online sentiment is going to be. It's going to be negative. We're going to have Dawntrail for a very long period of time, unless they break from convention and the Tokyo Fanfest isn't actually that far away from the proper release of 8.0. I think that is a Hail Mary. I think that is a very low % chance. I do not believe that is the case. I don't think it's impossible that they release the expansion around the time of Tokyo Fanfest. I think it's possible they do that. I don't think it's likely though, which means we have over a year of Dawntrail still. That is simply a long wait, especially when we're waiting in an expansion not too many people enjoy that much. Understandably so. I can absolutely imagine for everyone, whether you enjoy the current state of the game or you're hypercritical, this has to feel deflating, because for me, it also is deflating. This is a massive wait, especially when your competition, and I'm not just talking about World of Warcraft here, a bunch of games are able to update themselves way faster than this. However, did you think that would be the entire point of my video today? Let's don our tinfoil hats. Because, in the grand scheme of things, in a few years' time, when we're looking back on this period of the game, we may end up saying that this was the most needed thing to come out of Square Enix. Let's talk about why they may be doing this. I wanted to structure this video in a way that kind of like emulated my initial raw thoughts when I saw these dates. You have that initial feeling of, oh my god, we're gonna be waiting so long, like it's the end of Halo 3 and a Master Chief going into the freaking cryopod, wake me when you need me, freaking saint, right? And then you think about it, and you watch the celebration anniversary video they uploaded to their channel, where Yoshi P himself, in a bit that feels cosmically ironic, when Yoshi P in the video says our 2026 FanFest will kick off major future plans, which we'll be rolling out at a whirlwind pace. And look, I'm not going to be the only guy that makes this joke, but that sounds really funny when we're now not expecting 8.0 until like spring 2027. Which is also, funnily enough, when I kind of predicted the next main Xenoblade game to come out. It feels like they're saying, hey guys, we're gonna have a very savory dish, and they give me a cake with sprinkles and ice cream and the whole 9 yards, you know? I think what they're doing is they're trying to change the game, and I think they're trying to change the game more fundamentally than many of us probably think. I do not believe that to be cope. They keep freaking saying it. Like, even in this message of celebration video, if you pay attention to it, they always weave in, especially Yoshi P, whenever he does like new interviews for the game, whenever he does these like live shows or these like messages. Like nowadays, he keeps like weaving in, when he absolutely doesn't need to, by the way, weaving in like sentences essentially saying, yeah, he talks about the whirlwind pace that I mentioned before, and then near the end of the video he says we will remember our roots and make adjustments where necessary. Dude did not need to say this stuff. This could have just been a video talking about, hey, sick anniversary dude, here are the Fanfests. He mentioned stuff like this in all the interviews we've been covering lately. Back in the live letters for 7.3. We're going to make adjustments. We're going to change things. They keep mentioning this, and I think they're trying to really hint and say, guys, we hear you. We just need time. And with like 8.0 seemingly being so far away at this point, it really does feel as if they have come to the conclusion the game does need to change, but they need time to change it. And if they keep their regular schedule, they would be too locked into what they always do, and they need more time to mix things up and to change the game, possibly more fundamentally, who knows? I'm not saying like they're going to completely change the netcode or go on a new engine or anything like that, but I do think there is a distinct possibility they fundamentally change the content cadence and when things come out for a Final Fantasy XIV expansion. Like, that might be the thing they're trying to address here. We don't know, because they're being super vague about it, because they're probably waiting until the Fanfests. And the NA Fanfest, which is in Anaheim, California, isn't until April 24th and 25th, 2026, which is still like a good while away. So unless they reveal information before that, we're going to still be waiting a long time to learn more about 8.0. The reason I said before this is probably a period of time that we may end up looking back on and say, thank God they did this, because I think a lot of reasonable people will say, hey, there are elements to this game that I enjoy, but there are fundamental issues with it. Job design, content cadence, the amount of content we end up getting. Insert many other things here, right? There's a bunch of things this game can improve on. If they do end up taking this period of time to trying to address these issues, and not just sweep them under the rug, but to try to fundamentally alter the ship and to fix it, if they end up succeeding, when that stuff eventually comes out, I think the people they lost that still want to love Final Fantasy XIV and want to enjoy the game, if they end up fixing it, I think a lot of those people will end up coming back. And potentially the people that stick around and the die-hard loyalists will possibly enjoy the game even more. I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility. And in fact, taking their time with it and trying to properly address a lot of the community feedback they've been given over the years, not just in Dawntrail, but before that as well, and hopefully, ideally, incorporating that feedback into actionable changes in the game. When they get around to implementing that stuff, I think people will be willing to try it again. Not everyone, absolutely. Some people will just be apathetic. Some people make being negative about a video game a personality trait of theirs. But I think for a lot of reasonable people, they will be willing to check it out again. And it's better to take their time and to get it right than to rush something out the door that doesn't address the fundamental issues and allowing the foundation to rot continuously. They are going to get a lot of negative feedback in the coming months, especially if they don't communicate what they're doing with 8.0 before FanFest, because people just have precedent to work off of. And I will be the first to admit what I just talked about very well may be copium. But I have seen games before where I thought they were down and out and in way worse positions than Final Fantasy XIV is currently. I thought they were down and out. World of Warcraft! And then they take a step back and say, okay, let's fix this. And then they do. Not perfectly, there's still issues, but they largely right the ship. There is no period outside of like maybe 1.0 in Final Fantasy XIV's history that I would say, including now, is as bad as BFA and Shadowlands was for World of Warcraft. Dragonflight's story sucked, but the gameplay fundamentally changed. And then The War Within had a few hiccups, but it continues what works, while also addressing the storytelling and the feel of the overall experience. It can happen. The question is, will it happen for Final Fantasy XIV? A game that is largely known for sticking to its guns, for having its routines, having its traditions, and sticking to them. Will Final Fantasy XIV be able to experiment, try different things, which it already is starting to with quantum and like modular difficulty, but like I mentioned in yesterday's video, I hope they have more than that, because modular difficulty could be really cool as a slice of a pie in order to fix the game, but it can't be the whole thing. I think their goal is to just try to tide people over as much as they can while experimenting with something like modular difficulty in Final Fantasy XIV. Just tide people over. Understand you're not going to completely change opinions when it comes to Dawntrail. That ship has sailed. It's not going to happen. Just try to make the best out of a bad situation and make sure you get 8.0 correct. Because you could mess up 0.4, you could mess up 0.5. If you mess up 8.0, it'll be way more damning for the game than either of those put together. It's not a final nail in the coffin or anything like that. What I'm just saying is they have to knock it out of the park with 8.0. It cannot be a repeat of 7.0, or at least it shouldn't be. I want to be optimistic. I like what they're talking about. I question why they're talking about a whirlwind pace after dropping that Tokyo Fan Fest is going to be so late into 2026. But I want them to show that my optimism is well placed. I want them to prove me right, but time will tell. So yeah, not ideal. Like, let's face it, unless for some reason Tokyo Fan Fest is way closer to the release of 8.0 than ever before, I think it's fair to say for a lot of people, this is disappointing news. It's cool we're getting Fan Fest, don't get me wrong, but for a lot of people, where they're paying a monthly sub, knowing we're going to be waiting so long for the next expansion can be deflating. Understandably so, because it is. And hoping the game changes a lot of its core fundamental ideas and game design could easily be cope, 1000%. But they keep saying the game is changing. They keep saying they're trying to incorporate player feedback into their design. They keep mentioning stuff like this and giving themselves a bunch of extra time to possibly develop the next expansion. Feels as if they're at least trying. Whether or not they end up succeeding, we'll have to wait and see. So here's where you come in. Leave a comment down below with what is your biggest issue with Final Fantasy XIV right now. I plan to make a video for what I want to see out of 8.0, and I want to see what all of you guys think when it comes to what they need to change, what they need to address. What is your number one issue? And if it's like two things that are like equivalent for each other, it's a freaking YouTube comment. Just put both, right? We don't need to overthink it. I would love to hear your thoughts and hear your opinions and hear your perspectives. And if you want to stay up to date with all things Final Fantasy XIV and all the wacky, wild news we're bound to get, you should leave a like and subscribe. Follow me on TikTok, Twitch, and Twitter, Jmulls G. I have a Discord in the description down below. And if you want to see my thoughts on that interview that Yoshi P gave about the content still to come in Dawntrail, Beastmaster, variant dungeons, modular difficulty, you should check out this video right here for more. Stay safe, have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye everybody, until we meet again!